Welcome to AP US History. We're going to move on to Chapter 14. We'll be talking about manifest destiny and all that had to do with the United States. This term manifest destiny, if we were to capsulize it, simply means that we were destined for greatness, that somehow God had ordained us to take the Western frontier to be the #1 nation in the world because we have the best government, the best religion, the best know-how. We are the top dogs. In terms of trends during the antebellum America, from 1810 to 1860, we have a lot of new intellectual and religious movements. Social reform is, we looked at that in the last chapter. The Industrial Revolution certainly affects America, making us a power. Reemergence of a second party, the Whigs, will come into prominence. Increase in federal power through the court decisions made by John Marshall. So we just look at these here. This term manifest destiny was first coined by John O. Sullivan in 1845. He was a newspaper man. The right of our manifest destiny over and spread to possess the whole of the continent with providence, and thus talking about God, has given us the development of a great experiment, liberty, federal development of self-government entrusted to us. It is a right, that of which the tree to spread. This shows a picture of John Gust. You can see the Bible in this angel's hand, that we're destined to move west. This was painted in 1872. So how far has our nation grown? Well, the first area A shows the original 13 colonies. From whom did we get it? Well, Great Britain. Why? Because we declared war and we won the war. U.S. expansion, the western areas. Again, we got this from Great Britain by treaty in 1783. The Treaty of Paris, which ended the Revolutionary War, and we are an independent country. The Louisiana Purchase is next, C, 1803. We got it from France. Napoleon needed money, so we offered him. We originally were going to offer $5 million for New Orleans, but he sweetened the deal some. He said, well, I'll throw in the whole kit and caboodle for $15 million. How do you like that? And we said, we'll take it. Although Jefferson was a little reluctant to buy it, he believed it was in the best interest of the United States. Eventually we'll get Florida, and this is in 1819 from Spain. Andrew Jackson invaded. Spain realized that they weren't going to be able to control this territory, so they opted to sell it for $5 million. And so a pretty sweet deal. Texas, eventually they win their independence, but we don't annex them immediately. They become the Lone Star State, and eventually in 1845 they petition to become a part of the United States, and we accept. Although they were independent in 1836, it's going to be a while before we absorb them into the nation. Partly because we are afraid of the slavery issue in the North. This will give more territory to the southern states, and it was feared that it might upset the balance in government. The Oregon Territory, and you see there an F. When 1846, this is during Polk's presidency. Again, we get this by treaty from Great Britain. We have joint occupancy with Great Britain. and we will take this territory. The Mexican Cession win, 1848. We get it from Mexico. And why did we do that? Well, let's take it back here just a bit. Let's see if we can. Polk offered to buy Mexico from Slidell, but they refused, or the Southwest. He wanted to buy California, but they refused. And rather than negotiate any longer, let's just declare war on them. And we win. And the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, we take it from them, but we're kind folk, and we pay them $15 million for the Mexican Cession. So that's how we sort of expanded our borders. Now, President John Tyler will become president in the election of 1840. This is the Whigs will defeat Van Buren. Of course, there was a tremendous crisis, the Panic of 1837, and they blamed it on him. And that's what happens when you're the president. When things go badly, they blame you. Whig party takes over. Clay and Webster start to control Harrison, but he forgot to wear his overcoat on the inaugurational day and caught cold, eventually got pneumonia, and he dies 4 weeks after he becomes president. The quest begins. John Tyler will become president because he's the vice president. He's secretly a Jacksonian, although he hates Jackson personally. He likes his policies. This is going to be a fly in the ointment because he's going to oppose everything that the Whigs try to do, particularly Clay's American system, which wanted to maintain the tariff, renew the bank, and internal improvements. He vetoed more bills than any single-term president in U.S. history. He vetoed the third bank. They were trying to get that authorized to stabilize the currency in the United States, but he wouldn't go along with it. He kind of liked the idea of state pet banks. Eventually, his party, the Whigs, are going to say, listen, you don't look like a Whig, and you talk more like a Democrat, so we're going to kick you out. He will finish out the term for Harrison and not be reelected. In fact, they tried to impeach him, and when they were doing that, his entire cabinet resigned. One thing that he did do that probably made some Whigs a little happy is that he signed a bill raising the tariff. Again, this makes the South unhappy because they have to pay more for their goods. Now, in terms of U.S. conflict with England, we fought 2 wars with them, the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812. It looks at times over the next few years, from the 1940s on, that we're going to fight another war with them. One incident that took place was in 1837 during Van Buren's presidency. He's a Democrat. Americans were assisting in a Canadian uprising. Some Canadians want to get rid of Great Britain. A U.S. ship was set on fire in New York by a British soldier. 1 American died. 1840, that Canadian man was arrested for alleged role in attack. The British stated that if we executed him, it would mean war. Well, we sort of worked things out, and we didn't go to war. He's going to be released, and tension will sort of subside. The Korea incident takes place in 1841. Apparently, some slaves commandeered a ship, the Creole. I guess it's a Creole, or it's not Creole, but Creole. And they sailed to the Bahamas. The U.S. and British relations sort of soured because the Southerners were a little unhappy that 130 slaves escaped. We also had some problems with the Maine border further state north, and there was some discussion about where the boundary was. Now, the British wanted to build a road from Halifax, Nova Scotia, and to Quebec. Sounds like a reasonable offer, but unfortunately, part of the road would have to go through an area in the northeast that was in dispute. The Americans claimed that this road would run through Maine. Well, the Rustock War, which was really never a war, because nobody really shot at each other, but there were Canadian lumberjacks and Maine lumberjacks, and of course they went after each other with axe handles and clubs and fists, trying to figure out who owned this property. It threatened to widen into a real war, but cooler heads will prevail, and the diplomats settle this. So sometimes diplomats can do some good. Well, the expulsion of Canadian lumberjacks in the disputed area of Rustock by Maine officials. Congress called up 50,000 men and voted $10 million to pay for the war, but we'll settle this peacefully. This shows where Halifax, this road is going to run through New Brunswick, and then on to Quebec. And you can see the green area was what Maine claimed was part of their state. They eventually, seems like they split it down the middle so the road can be built. And the Webster-Ashburn Treaty is signed, and we avert conflict with Great Britain. Hooray! We're not going to fight. In fact, we're never going to fight the British again. Eventually, they are going to be our allies in future wars, and we're still somewhat on friendly relationships today. And the road is built, and each side gives a little bit. And at this treaty, the British said, we're really sorry that the Carolina was burned in New York. We won't do that anymore. And we promise that we won't help free any more slaves. Even though the British had ended slavery in their empire in the 1830s, it's going to take us a while to figure this out. Also from this treaty, we gained a little territory in Minnesota, and we're pals with Great Britain. Hooray! Now we come to this idea of manifest destiny. Where in the heck did that idea come from? Well, some believe that we were the golden child chosen by God to control the Western Hemisphere. From sea to shining sea. Part of this was land greed and ideals joined to a potent mixture for expansion. Thomas A. Minton was a leading proponent of expansionism, free land, and internal improvements. And we talked about John L. Sullivan coined the phrase. Jackson and Van Buren are going to remove the Indians, which will be an obstacle to expansion. And we'll stop here, and we'll pick it up next time.